Okay. Good evening, everyone. As usual, we have this an hour of the talk in every evening. So today will be the first talk on this retreat. Okay. But today I have a new attempt to address a topic, because in the past, especially if I want to give a talk in English, so I mostly was thinking that most of the audience are, perhaps you would say, like the local American. Okay? And most of the local American, they might be more interested in how the meditation will helpful for their daily life. So since I've been giving this kind of talk for many years already, I think at least 4 or 5 years. But if you still like to know, how this technique could apply to your life, or how that might be, in a subtle way, will be changing or helping to formulate or to regulate your mind, so you could go to the YouTube there and look for my name. Maybe then you can find lots of talk over there. Or maybe actually you could just look for my website too. But today I have a new attempt. So the new attempt, usually when you have a new attempt to give a talk on a topic, it can be not very pleasant for some people. Maybe yes, some people like it. It's always very hard to tell who like it, who doesn't like it. Maybe the best I want to say, let me just adjust my recording first. Maybe the best to say this is, in this few days talk, I like to mostly borrow the text from the Buddhist tradition, and also try to look at how the Buddhist tradition really understand this technique. Okay, and because it's kind of like a little bit of religious way, so that's why I say maybe some people not really always appreciate that. But anyway, I guess if you don't, you might have a different idea. Please just take it almost like a story, like I'm just, the bedtime story for you, that you can go to sleep well. Okay. Firstly, I want to say that actually there's one of the Buddhist texts called Itivuttaka. And in other words, in Chinese called Lu Shi Yu. It means usually this text is a collection of the Buddha's talk, that to reaffirm that this talk really was preached by the Buddha, or been addressed by the Buddha. So that's why this text begin to say that this is how I heard from the Buddha, and then the Buddha is the perfect one as among the human beings. And then what did the Buddha say? He said, "Have no fear of meritorious deeds, monks. This, monks, is a term for happiness, for that which is desirable, pleasing, healthier, charming, that is to say, meritorious deeds." I think actually the Buddha began to say, when you learn Buddhism, at least we always know, they always ask you have to be empty everything. Empty your mind, empty your body, empty your stomach, empty everything. Okay, it's up to you how do you understand empty, but certainly I'm sure that you always heard about this term. But also sometimes surprisingly, that you also find in the Buddhist text, the Buddha asks you, don't fear about when you have merits. You have this kind of meritorious deeds. Now what does the carries mean? Why some Buddhists are so fear of the meritorious deeds? Why? Because some people, the way they learn Buddhism, they thought if you have conduct a meritorious deed, it means you have craving. It means that craving will bring you or lead you to reborn again and again. It's not a wonderful thing. This is how the Buddhists, general, some people think it that way. In other words, yes, you definitely in Buddhist teachings would not encourage you to do bad deeds, bad things. But then, even in a certain teachings also tell you not even to do the good deeds too. Because if you commit yourself to the good deeds, even though you will be reborn to the heavens, or you'll be born here, be a nice life, but you're still bound to the craving, right? Nobody heard about that? Right? So now, when we read this Buddhist text, and then the Buddha, we don't know why, but anyway, the Buddha claimed that already. Don't fear all these meritorious deeds. And he also reaffirmed to saying that a term for happiness, because a meritorious deed, this always is a term for happiness. And for that which is desirable, pleasing, and then you're always pleasing, desirable, healthier, and it's charming. So, and what happened? And then the Buddha started to say further, he said, I distinctly know, monks, the ripening of the meritorious deeds performed for the long while to have been one that was desirable. In other words, I don't want to go to read all these things, but generally the Buddha wants to say, now the Buddha assures you that don't fear of the meritorious deed, because that is a term there for happiness. And then the Buddha also reassures you that actually the Buddha himself have experienced this kind of meritorious deed, and also has been, because of conducting the meritorious deed, has a good ripening, in other words, have a good result. Now he starts to say what kind of result. He said that, having brought into being a heart of loving kindness for 7 realms, I did not return again to this world for 7 actually it should be evolutions of the kalpa. I know this is a difficult term. Generally, the Buddha wants to say, because the Buddha in the past, he has been practicing this loving kindness meditation, or this force of life abiding meditation. For 7 realms, that's the old language, it means for 7 years. So for 7 years, he's been highly devote themselves to practice this. So the result of the practicing, you will bring him what? So that he would not come back to this world. Okay? He will not come back to this world for 7 evolution of the kalpa. Okay? Not only that, in other words, billion years, he would not come back to here. When this, where did he go then? So that means actually, he was being born to one of that's believed to be the heavens, that the body will always shooting out the light. That's called apasara. So, and when that kind of word been destroyed, because Buddhism believes there's no any word will stay forever. When that kind of heavens also been naturally been destroyed, so then he was born in the Brahma world, and he stayed, not just become as a Brahma, so what the Indian ideology believe mean like a God place. It's not that he would just become the God place, but he stay in the palace of the God. Okay. And after even those things, and again, he become the head of the head basically means the king of the one of the heavens, so that he could live. I don't know how to count that. 36万万 in English, I don't know how to say. Yeah. Then he lived there, as the one lifetime is equivalent to 36 million years old, So, now I know this is not something you'll find, what we are talking about. And then, of course, there are more and more. Even after when he just became a king there, and then he would die also, after 36 million years of age, for the earth age, and then he again be reborn as from the earth again. Then he become one of the great ruler on the earth. So that's what we call the Dhamma. It's the idealism of Buddhism thinking the ruler when it comes to the earth, all these other continental will really surrender themselves to them without raising the war, because they They believe that he will be the greatest one, the most justice one. So it's the kind of idealism of Buddhist understanding of the kingship, okay, or the ruler or the leader. So, and after this, and and then at that time, actually, when he's become a ruler, he was thinking, what kind of thing he'd done in the past, so he could have such a powerful leadership, or that everybody would listen to him also. And then, when he reflected accordingly, then he see that just like a meditation. Okay, he could see almost like he could see his past life and can trace back, And then he knew actually even long, long ago, when he was in this kind of earth, so he practiced 7 years of the force of life abiding, and that kind of marriage, that kind of something like the wealth, that will give him a powerful marriage to be born in a good place. Not that he was born in a good place, but he was born even as a powerful person in those heavens. So, not that only he was powerful in the heavens, when even then he come back or reborn. Buddhism believe in reborn, right? And then he reborn back here again, and then he was one of the monarchs, which is what we call the wheel-turning monarch. In other words, mean the most powerful king. That without a war, everybody would surrender to him. So, of course, this in the modern time, there are lots of interpretation. People sometimes, when they come to Buddhism, they might be, really interested in Buddhist ethic, because Buddhism always teach something really nice, to be how to be a person. But sometimes also people are interested in Buddhism, of course, not because just a Buddhist ethic, for example, like a meditation. Even a lot of my friends, either they're Catholic priests, for example, they also admit that. One of the wonderful of the Buddhism is Buddhists have lots of way, lots of method. It's not just a theory that, okay, you should be good, but he will teach you how you can develop, cultivate, and be good. But then this is how generally, at least my friends in America or even in Europe, they are mostly interested in. But not necessarily you will be interested in the religious aspect. Means something that you never touch, you don't know what is true, you don't know what exists. Now, this is why I like to bring this text to just begin today's talk, for many reasons. Maybe for one of the reasons, because even when I started to become interested in Buddhism, so I have to say that you always have this kind of wondrous mind thinking that, what if I cannot be the Buddha? Or what if I cannot be enlightened, like, such we think about enlightenment. And this is certainly, does Buddhism, if it serves as a religion, maybe not a religion, but serve as a religion, so does Buddhism also will offer some other things that to fulfilling the religious purpose? Generally we understand the religious purpose mean that at least this is what we care, especially when you're older and older. That is when you die, where you go. Okay. And of course, nobody likes to think that they will go to a bad place. They always, if there's a place that you have to be born again, that you need to think about that might be it happened. But if it truly will happen, to where you could be born, and then can you be born in a better place? Okay. So of course, that's the reason why all religions offer you different understanding, theory, telling you that, because of this, you can be born there, you can born in eternal place, and so forth and so forth. Now, I think this is also a time to introduce that. Maybe now some people think it's not important, but trust me, one day when you lie in a bed about to die, maybe come to very important to you. And whether that's something you believe or not, maybe think in this age, what this heck, I don't care. But when that time, so you might be care. So whatever, I like just to plant some seed in your mind. And not just to plant the seed in your mind, it's also the way that at least I like to offer in a religious aspect. what you're practicing now, what does it do good for you, if you really cannot be enlightened. Now, according to the text, it's very clear. Actually, there are many texts, but these are just one of the texts. The Buddha said very clear. So in those days, in other texts, actually the Buddha mentioned that in those days, when he didn't know the Four Noble Truths, in other words, he didn't know the teaching of Four Noble Truths, because this kind of teaching is never exists. When I say never exists in the term of methodologically, how you practice it never exists. So, and he also practiced this. And this actually, when you practice the force of abiding, so it always gives you some good result, even in the life here. Okay, that you will start to become, you change yourself. So like the first day, someone mentioned why he would like to come back to practice, because one reason is that they know themselves, they have a very stubborn mind, and a kind of like very, is it called stubborn? No, stubborn is not a good term. Very rigid, maybe, very rigid mind. But after practice this this force of abiding meditation, even though they don't necessarily practice, devote themselves to practice so much, but it does change them. They soften the mind. That kind of soften the mind, they could see that it helps them to become much more, friendly to people as well, and they don't fear so much too. Okay, for example, like that. That definitely is one of the results. And another result, this is what we also talked in the past, that Buddhism also believes when you practice, when you have developed this kind of good mind, it's very different philosophy. That is, when you have a good mind, that is a very powerful and great merits you have. Okay, very powerful and great merits. That's, or maybe you could translate as a meritorious deed you have. And this kind of meritorious deed is as if like you're saving your money in the bank. I don't know, still the bank can bankrupt, okay? And maybe if the country has some problem, you can devalue your money as well, and so forth. But in Buddhism, when you do the good deed, and that good deed is always bring you wonderful result, okay? Now among that, the Buddha, again and again and again in many Buddhist texts, mentioned that one of the wonderful things that you could do is when you practice a force of abiding. It was so wonderful that, so the merit is so powerful that it's more than whenever you do anything. Of course, I have to say, I do have questions in the past, because I always still think, if I develop this loving kindness, again and again, very powerful, so what? But now, we need to think about some other thing. Why I'm asking this question? Why I think so what? Why? I have to say that because why I think that? Because I thought, you are still thinking, we're looking at a thing, not looking innate, in other words, inward, but we're looking at a thing outward. We're still looking at a thing like, the most powerful maybe now you think that to be the president in America, I don't know, okay. Am I right? No? I don't know whether you agree, but you really have to think about this now. In case that now, suddenly somebody say, tomorrow you will be president of America, do you want or not? You don't need to go through election. No debate. Right? And I'm sure, I have to say, I'm sure, quite sure, most of you say yes. Okay. But then another choice that actually you could develop this meritorious deed, that's by practice force of abiding. What the bullshit you're talking about? Who the heck? Who wants this kind of thing, right? And then sometimes even you argue, when you be a good person, what happened? People are going to take advantage of you too, right? This is also one of the questions I faced. They say, tell me, what should I do? When the people bully you, do you still loving kindness to that person? Right? Now, this is certainly that you could see, we can discuss about this in the future, but you could see that this is how the people have a different value about what is the thing that, what really is mean to them, right? And of course, if one day you really have the chance that you can be a president, either you're a man or woman, and then you tell your friends or your father, I reject that, but I just want to practice my force of abiding meditation. No, this is a good question. Even though you tell me how my reaction is about. Maybe I will say, are you mad? Why don't you just be a president first? Okay. Or I will say, wow, you're really wise. You make that kind of choice, not with a sarcastic tone, okay? Now, we all know that from a Buddha's perspective, I don't know maybe you agree or not, but the Buddha, when he was born, right, it is said that actually he has this kind of power to become a very powerful monarch. And then he declined that kind of decision. I don't know, maybe you could say decline because he doesn't know his future. But of course, legendary that we always know that he knows his future. So then he became a Buddha, and he thinks that is more powerful and more, actually more valuable. We here doing the meditation, or at least we become a monk here or become a nun here. Somehow, whether we're clear or not, I don't know, but somehow we must agree with his point of view, right? Otherwise, we will just go into the monk, become a monk. We can just go for the political campaign, right? So, in other words, we don't go for the political campaign because we prefer that the Buddha's ideas. Okay, this is why I'm here selling you this idea. I don't mean that this kind of idea to selling you to ask you to totally have to be agree or what. But I think maybe at this point when you practice this, it's a good time for you to think over really seriously what is really important in your life. So what really can help you and save you from all your life, even though you don't know your next life. So this happened to me once, which I never thought I would answer in such a way. A friend asked me, when you come through a lot of difficulty in your life, when you come to a lot you feel unfair to you in your life, what really helps you? What really saves you? Maybe some other people will try to say, the thing that helped me and saved me because I pray to the Avalokitesvara, I pray to the Buddha, it doesn't work for me. No, it doesn't work for me. I told them what really actually helped me and what is my best friend is because I have this force of abiding mind. In other words, imagine when I feel over that there was things unfair, maybe still, of course, there's still a lot of things unfair in our life. But what I do, I will just practice. And I just have the love for the people. Or maybe I have a compassion for the people. Maybe I have also equanimity or joy, share their joy, So that helped me actually tremendously to let my life get by easily. Okay, I don't mean just only get by also. It helped me also to understand, actually it's interesting, understand the fact, the thing more clearly. In other words, then you will understand much, much better about why you have resentment towards this thing and what they are doing. So is that the resentment is true or the resentment is not true? Do I have to take any responsibility for the resentment also, or just only because the other side take all the responsibility, right? And so forth. And this is what I guess the Buddhism called the wisdom. Okay. At the same time, it's interesting, and because of this kind of friends, that's what I say, not these hindrances friends, the friends of the force of abiding, as if like you have a full guardian to help you all the time. Not just because it helps you the life go on better and better, at least you live more content. And it also at least in this text. This is why I like this text. Say, when you die, okay, I don't understand. When I die, so then I might, even though if I don't have practiced more advanced, I can be born in what normal religion, either or the theistic religion thing, that you could be born toward heavens that wonderfully. Not that you can born there you are not be born there not like a tiny, maybe the deities stay there, but you be a powerful deities. Don't you want it? No? You don't want it? Tell me why you don't want it. You have a better place to go.
Well, it's little doll.
Little doll. What does it mean by little doll? But I like to know then why you come here. I mean, not here meditate. Why you come to this earth?
Oh, because it gives me an opportunity to help others and myself at the same time, and to develop my practice.
But how do you know that when you go there heavens, you will not help the others?
That's a good question. Because it's a good question for me, because I don't see anything in the sutras that suggests that.
But they does suggest that. And the Buddha said that I've been there. And that's why he said that don't worry about the meritorious deeds. And actually, we should call the Buddha here again and ask what really he's trying to suggest. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I look at it this way. I look at it this way. When they haven't really gone to a higher stage, like what the Buddhist ideology is, like to be a Buddha, to gain enlightenment. So you still must have this kind of quality there. That is the godlike quality. Or what I like to use the term mean, the divine quality. If we have because in Buddhist understanding, the divine quality is always a person is always benevolent, always very kind, always very loving, no anger all the time, and no jealousy, no hatred. I know this is at least in terms of human rationally. So, and this certainly, definitely it had a great benefit for us already. So imagine that if in this earth, if we have a person like that. And then since Buddhism believes in the past, the reborn, but you cannot say that when it's such a wonderful person, maybe not enlightened, but he's a wonderful person, that there's no place for him to go, right? Maybe he would like to come back here, all right. But we need to think about what if there was a certain place to suit him more. Do they have a place to suit him more? If we are not looking for the universe as such, as small as such, like here on earth, but if you look at the universe as a whole universe, then there must be the place to suit this kind of person too, right? It's just like, when you see a person's, this is how I look at it, when you see a smart person, a wonderful person, beautiful person, I mean in terms of whatever aspect, if they've been restricted, confined in such a horrible place, you always say, this place is not suit you. You deserve a better place to go, right? You do have this language. So, if that kind of person have developed such a wonderful thing, but what about when the person passed away? Then we need to solve the problem in Buddhist kind of philosophy or Buddhist theology. That is, that person has to be able, there's a place for them to be born, that he could really use his power. But how could he have all this power? It's because he practiced this wonderful thing in the life. It doesn't make sense? Okay, now that's why I say I like to talk this as a religious, almost like convince you to be, very religious persons in a way. Now, it worked for me in a way. Because of that, so it also motivates me, I need to work more. Because sometimes if you talk, there's no I, there's emptiness of me, everything is emptiness. Yeah, maybe it's true. Of course, I believe it's true in a way. but it not necessarily sometimes will motivate you to be a better person. I mean, I'm not saying the teaching is wrong. It is how, as a human, when you want to transform yourself, become almost like unhuman. No, unhuman is not a good term. Ahuman, not human. Because there was a time when the Buddha attained enlightenment. Someone saw the Buddha, are you a human? He said, not a human. Are you a deity? He said, I'm not a deity. Okay, that's what something like transform that. Before that, between the transformation, there was a certain middle place called the divine being. So this is, I guess that's what I would need to say, that in terms fulfilling the religious curiosity and fulfilling this kind of religious, satisfaction. So in Buddhism, believe in karma. Did I talk too much already? I don't know. Buddhism believe in karma. So in other words, what we are doing, it has to be conducive, even in the next life, to be a better, right? So this is, and that you could argue that it is just only, a method, or anyway, let me think, there's a method that helps you to motivate your practice. Maybe, fine, but it works, and that's how we can uplift ourselves to be a better person. But now I'm talking about, if we believe in the Buddhist text, this is not only happening in this text, but there's several texts. The Buddha claimed that actually why he can be so powerful in the past is because he spent his life to practice this force of life abiding meditation, so that he could rule the country. Okay. It's very boring, I guess. People sometimes feel sleepy too. Okay. Now we start to describe something about that now. I don't know. Let me see how to begin now. I didn't think too much of that, but we know that we have. If we know that we have this quality, and then in the Buddhist texts also, there were many times people come to challenge the Buddha, saying that the Buddha, you are the one who know everything. So that mostly means you even know so-called the whole universe. And they challenge the Buddhas by saying that, I also learn about this universe. In other words, they have their own religious ideas. And they would like to know how the Buddha think about their religious idea of the universe. Right? And in a lot of Buddhist texts, actually, the Buddha have a lot of conversation between them. Sometimes maybe deny part of their ideas. Sometimes maybe almost completely accept their ideas. But there's one thing is interesting. The Buddha always wanted to point out is that the important is, even though you might have the ideas or how, say that you want to be reborn in the heavens or heaven. Say some people believe that. So, but how you go there? What qualifies you to go there? I mean, I'm not here to address the Christianity, but I'm addressing in Indian religion in those days. And it's always actually the Buddha, when that conversation going better, in other words, they could really communicate, they are not really defensive, So, and then the Buddha was always introducing that, then you just have to practice this force of life by the meditation. Because these teachings will give you a wonderful thing that you can live when you are here. You can live just like the God. That's why we have a term called Brahma Vihara. Okay? Because you can live like the God, and at the same time, when a person passes away, they could be reborn to that if they want to, in that state. Because the mind they have the same quality of the mind to be reborn there. Okay? Not only this, actually, something very interesting. I like to talk here, but I don't mean that you need to practice now. Okay? It is believed that if you really want to go beyond your naked eye to see what you want to see. When you have developed this kind of meditation, and deeper with the power of the jhana or the dhyana, so you can expand the vision of the world. I mean, in other words, you can expand, you can look up to see, do they have any other dimension of the world? That's why we always say the heavens word called loka also. Loka in the Sanskrit would mean the world. Okay? So you could look at the other world exists. In other words, you could say that through this kind of technique meditation, this has actually been described in many masters also. Usually we don't say it openly because we don't want people gossiping. But today I'd like to say a little bit openly. For example, people, because we are serious about the practice already. When you're doing a meditation, when you're serious about a practice, maybe sometimes that kind of meditation, the practices will help you, as I say, go beyond your naked eye. And then with that, you might be able to, it is believed that you'll be able to look through the people, you'll be able to read people's mind. There's such a kind of power there. But now if in case that you want to see, not this thing, but you want to look at how big the universe is, But if you have this time, and if you really want to devote yourself, then you have to practice this technique. Because this technique, I'm sure that the old students somehow know, at least in terms of the technique, you have to expand your vision farther and farther and further. And this kind of expansion of vision will help you to look much, much more. There was much, much more bigger world out there. Okay. Now, if that's the case, just for the logical reason, that someone can look farther world out there, what happened with you? Definitely, it transforms you to understand this world now. You would not just really cling on this world all the time. Yes, sometimes you do, of course, but not all the time. Especially when there's a crucial moment there, there's other place you could go, not only this place. You stay. And then also, by seeing those things, by able to have that kind of vision, and then you also kind of firmly know that when my mind can stay in such a way, I could be there. I don't need to ask the permission to be there, but I can be there. Okay? Because at least that's how the Buddhist understanding. Wherever you're born is either you wish to be born there, or because you have the same quality. That's why you have to be born there. So this is anyway one of the. I don't know whether it would be encouraging you or discouraging your practice, but if it becomes a discouraging you, I like to encourage you, saying that even you don't believe this sort of thing, no matter, fine, because maybe what matters to you is when you practice, it's always help your life live happily and wonderful. Okay, and but of course, in case there was something really beyond this kind of world also, and then you always have the better chance. Then you don't have the chance. Okay. Recently, last time I went for a few mass, for the Catholic mass. Why I went for the mass is also. There was several reasons, because I have a good few friends, they are the Catholic priests. And one priest also one day invited me to go to his mass. He said, I'm conducting a mass in one of the wonderful church in DC. So I went there. The interesting thing is that because I have to think about this technique also. So in the mass, of course, whatever they do, I just follow them to do. Okay. But the important is that I have no any differentiation about I am a monk or why I'm here. And I just feel the wonderful feelings of the kind of like the divine, sensation over there. And I don't know whether how, and that time it made me to realize that, of course in early I could, but that's really made me to realize that I don't differentiate he is a priest, like a Catholic priest, or he is a monk. I just see him as a wonderful person. Okay. So, and that's kind of you complete cut off. This is I, that's you, because you have this religion, and because I have this religion, or because I have this idea. Now, and this is also one of the very important messages I always think we need to. You know that nowadays we have many problems. Maybe always it's like that, but at least now we have YouTube, we have so easy to look at my iPad, right? So easy to expose to a lot of news. And the media is very different now, so it's they will encourage you when you have any problem, you might have some video clips, from your phone, somewhat, put it online, so you could see some real life thing. I want to say that at least that kind of thing makes us to think that there are lots of problems now. I always think it's always there, but I mean now it's exposed more materialistically, in front of our eye. And this kind of problems there, and I always think the problem comes to us is because we always want to distinct ourselves. I will always want to think that I'm better than you. I, and you, You might be destroy my religion, or I want to destroy you too. Maybe you destroy my identity, so I want to destroy your identity too, and all this kind of thing. And of course, lots of topic comes along, how you dissolve this identity question. Can we not to have so-called American people? Or yes, you should have the nationalists, or not nationalists, or should have things in American people. All these kind of things happen. So now, I'm not here to give an answer right now, but I do know one thing. When our mind don't have the hatred, it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter. When your mind have no hatred, you just feel everyone just like your brother, your sister, right? Or your son, your daughter, your son, or your mother, if they're elder, that's how I believe, your mother or your father. It is because when we have this kind of hatred in our heart, we start to differentiate who and who. When the hatred, or you could say the unhappiness, becomes stronger in your heart, the more that you start to differentiate persons. Either you defend, or either because you want to cling on your identity. Now, force of law-abiding is one of the best ways to solve this. Not asking you, don't have the identity. Okay? Also not asking you to give up yourself. But there's an alternate way to ask you to remove your hatred. If you can, not completely leave the best, to remove the more the better, that you could see that the peace within while you're removing this, right? Now, I guess this is how I like to think. The Buddha say that why, even though in other texts actually the Buddha say, even though how powerful a person, what kind of big riches, in those days the king, when they were succeeded in the kingship, what they would do, they will have a big fiesta, right? And sometimes including some sacrifice of the thing, in old days like that. It's believed that you need to sacrifice certain animals to the god, and then also you have a big fiesta. That is showing that it's not just because joyous, it is not just makes you happy, as a great king, not just makes you happy, but they also believe that makes them have a great marriage, meritorious deed, make them will be good in their future, right? No? If they know that there's not good for the future, why they want to do it? They don't. They would believe that kind of ritual or the religious service will make them that kind of beautiful ritual. But please do remember, if you believe in the Buddha's word, the Buddha say, even though they have such a great, powerful, grand fiesta, sacrifice, or religious rituals, still compared to when you have this force of law-abiding mind, it's just only one out of 16. Okay, You get it now? So that, they involve so much money, involve so many people happy together. Still, if that is kind of mandatory, they would do it. But still, if you compare to when you have a loving kindness mind, that is just only 1 out of 16. Okay? Now, I want to say, maybe at the moment you don't want to believe it, you don't know whether it's true, but I like to say this. I still doing it again and again. I like to say, if you work on it, see it to yourself. So I don't know, now if you ask me to go to the big ceremony, wonderful, people are joy, happy, I can feel the joy, I could feel the vibrant. But I don't think that joy is more joy than when I don't have a hatred in my mind. Okay. And especially when that you could remove the hatred in your mind, but you just feel this kind of love to everyone. I'm not here to tell the lie, okay? Even though sometimes I cannot do it, I have to say. But when I can do it, I certainly knew very well. There's none of the joys better than this kind of joys. You know what I'm saying? You know when you're young, let's go to dancing party, right? You go to dancing party. Or why you want to go to dancing party? Of course, you have happy time. If you know that you're going there to suffer, no one want to go. Right? And the same thing like, when people have a kind of feast for you, you're thinking that you're going to eat wonderful food. You have a happy time. It's good. I'm not here to say not good. It's good. But I guess that's what I really think the Buddha is one of the greatest person in the earth. It's because he able to see this in much, much more deeper, or in a depth way, very deep way. That is the joyous that makes you joy and happy is when you remove the hatred completely. So, did that motivate you? No, because some people are going for sleep again, But at least I'm sure that even though I haven't successfully motivate you, but I hope that at least it helps you to look at that kind of direction, in your life. Check when is the time that you feel happy. When is the best time you always feel immemorable, besides you fall in love the first time, okay? When actually, maybe I don't know, you still can compare when you fall in love the first time and then with that kind of, really when your mind, you maybe just stay in a lake. Because I remember when I was young, in our place we don't have a lake. Somehow I went to a place that I saw the lake, even though I wasn't in meditation, but you just feel the peaceful there. And that is something you'll never forget in your life. That you will somehow feel that, actually we can live in such a very calm and peaceful way. I remember it was my high school time because I really have a lot of stress because I'm so bad in study. I worry so much of my study, so much. But also I'm so stupid, I'm not a very clever person, and I don't know how to out of this kind of burden to me, But that kind of peaceful, it's kind of carry with you like a ghost, but in a good way, okay? The ghost is a bad way, you're always behind your own. But it's that carry in a good way that you always feel there was something that always worth searching for. Worth just searching for. As I always... So that kind of thing is, as I say, now you find it, I have to say. At least that very similar experience, if you could just put yourself into effort, not with the craving, I want it. This is not meditation. Okay? Especially not the loving kindness meditation. You have to able to detect, now I don't want to have this kind of craving there, anger there. I just do the way, or what that's maybe you say. And then it comes to you that when all this anger removed, so you just really feel joy. Now, today you're only learning the loving kindness. Interestingly, even if you have compassion, that compassion will help you to remove your anger. Also, there's a wonderful feelings. And also, there's a kind of joy, what we call the sympathetic joy. That's how we translate. But that is also a kind of joy, not like the joy with your sensor, what you see nicely, what you hear nicely only, but purely the mental part that you're able to generate kind of joy, so you could able to remove the anger also. Then that kind of joy is also really wonderful. All right. Now, before I stop, I need to say a few things first. One thing is that I hope that will motivate you already. As I say, if it not, at least look at that direction. I'm not here to give you the answer. Even the Buddha never want to give the answer, but the Buddha will point that to you. You try to check on that part, whether that will make your life more better, more happy. And you will have much more meritorious deed also. Even though you don't believe in the next life, but maybe you do so, then you can be born in a good place. Why not, right? But you always can make a choice. I don't want to go there. I want to come back here. Fine, right? So that always just do you good. That's never do you bad. But do remember also, I think the Buddha always say, if you are the smart person, a wise person, you must also know how to choose friends. Okay? You don't want to stay with the friends who is malicious, who is always angry, who is always jealous, envious, and also always delight in see other people misfortune. Okay? It will always corrupt you, corrupt your mind. So you must always stay with the friends, those who have this kind of faith. Okay, that means the life always can be better. Basically, you could say, and they know how to look for the better life. And then the person is always pleasant, happy, joyful. I don't mean they're dumb, just happy and pleasant and wise. And also, they would never want to stop learning. They always want to expose themselves to keep on learning. So then the Buddha say, so truly, if anyone who have always contact with such a good friend, it is very important. It's also one of the greatest blessed. Okay? And the last statement I also like to share is because by associating these kind of friends, when they're always pleasant, very wise, I was always wanted to learn more and more, okay? And then they also have a way to look for the life, that they had a faith in what is good for the life, not because they follow people thinking you're rich, you're what, And that kind of friend, if you associate, it may always help you, because you need these kind of friends there to remind you what you should look for. I don't know whether you agree, but anyway, that's what you should look for. And then that kind of friends, then it will help you to know that, actually whether you become a pure or not pure, because always believe that when you're a pure person, it's because you put away the defilements, any trouble your mind, okay? So it's said that if you, when you want to allow yourself to have this troublesome thing take in your mind, you'll be troublesome. Okay. But if you purify the mind, then your trouble will go away. Now, right now I want to say, how do you purify your mind? The first thing is that when you have a force of non-abiding mind, that will purify your mind, because at least to purify your anger. By removing this anger, it will be purified also, that you will see how the craving stay there. But through the scene of how the craving stay there, then your craving will be removed also. When your craving will be removed, then the wisdom arises. Why the wisdom arises? Because you see, in Buddhist understanding, the Four Noble Truths. That means how the craving comes in and how the craving can be ceased. And then you're sure about what is the path. Okay, this is called your purification. All right. Then I will end my talk. You can have 10 minutes break and come back to do the transfer marriage. And the end, that this is the first day talk, and I still hope that tomorrow, after hearing this talk, you will try to work harder. Okay, I just keep my finger crossed. Okay. Yeah, I'll see you in 10 minutes time. Please, if you want to go to the restroom, please do so, and so forth. Come back here.